I'm really happy to have Anna with us here to share a little insight into what it's been like for teachers over the past year. Anna is a secondary teacher living in South Yorkshire. Anna, what subject do you teach?
I teach science, mostly chemistry and biology.
Fab. So just to get to know a little bit more about the situation, what would you say the past year has been like for you as a teacher working during this pandemic?
I think when I was thinking about this, the bigger thing that struck me was the sort of ever-changing circumstance and the uncertainty of it that's been really tricky and made it really stressful, because there's been like so many different models. So when we went back in September, things were fairly normal, but there were constraints in terms of a classroom. So normally, as a member of staff, we'd be encouraged to move around the classroom. We weren't allowed to do that. The kids all had to be sat in rows facing forwards, and very strict monitoring of seating plans. And then for our school, towards the end of October, there are a number of different year groups at various points sent home. So then you were teaching online to some year groups, and then in the classroom to other year groups. And eventually our school actually had to close early for that half term. There were so many cases. Then you're back, and the run before Christmas wasn't as bad. We were mostly in school, and then we went back after Christmas, and we had about a day's notice that everything was going to be online, and then you've got to adapt a whole. So our school did entirely live. Every lesson had to have a live lesson part on Teams. So you're very quickly learning how to do that from nowhere, and then coming back into school. And again, recently there's been sort of growing case rates, kids sent home, teaching hybrid lessons where you have some kids in front of you in the classroom and some kids on Teams. So just that uncertainty as to what's going to happen in the coming weeks, and the changing nature, and that even in a classroom things aren't normal. So not having the freedoms that you'd normally have to wander around a classroom, not being able to get the kids sat necessarily where you'd want them to sit. As a science teacher, we've only just started doing practicals again after not doing it for over a year, which is just really sad, and something that kids have really missed, because we've either not been in science classrooms because the year groups were bubbled, so teachers were travelling around the schools, or with having to isolate equipment in between year groups. It just wasn't possible. And it's been hard as well, I think, with some kids to see the gaps that are there anyway in attainment between some kids and others. Actually, I think those have been widened, in that those kids that generally would do well haven't really lost out a great deal. They've lost out a little bit, but those kids that would tend to struggle or not engage in school have lost out much more. So I think seeing that widening gap in education for the kids as well has been really hard, despite best efforts.
Absolutely. Wow. So a myriad of challenges. Would you say that there have been any unexpected highlights or blessings through this?
I think one of the things I liked about teaching online, which had many frustrations, was not having to deal with challenging behaviour. That was, for me, that was quite a nice thing. I think when the kids have been in school, because of the pressures, behaviour in some ways has been more challenging. So that was one of the things I liked about doing online, learning new skills and things online, some of which I'll then apply into classroom teaching. I think the other thing as well that tends to happen in schools when times are tough is that sense of camaraderie, particularly within my department. There's been a real sense of sort of teamwork and working together, and that's been a really nice aspect of it. It's building up those relationships. And yeah, I think when you feel stressed, you kind of will often pull together. So that's for me has been quite a nice thing in a tough time.
I guess a bit of the spirit of the Blitz going on there.
Something like that.
And then finally, Anna, I want to say, first of all, kind of well done for almost getting to the end of the year. You've only got, another couple of weeks, and then, you'll have made it to the end of this academic year. What can we, as Pray for Schools, what can we be praying for you and for other teachers, and maybe even particular Christian teachers like yourself?
I think for schools generally, and for school leaders, I guess what would be most helpful would be some certainty, which is really hard to obtain, but for certainty and stability for when the kids go back, that they're back in school, and that's it. Hopefully with the bubble system ending, that'll help. For certainty and stability, certainty around exams next year and what's going to happen, because that was another pressure this year, particularly for those in leadership and those in sort of managing departments. I think for most teachers, most of my colleagues are just exhausted, so tired. So everyone's in real need of a good rest and a good break and a good chance to de-stress. I guess for Christian teachers, I think possibly I've found once or twice there's been more opportunities to sort of speak to people. I think tough times will cause people to question things. So I guess pray for Christian teachers for that rest as well, but also for good conversations, maybe with those slightly closer relationships that have been formed, for really good chats with colleagues, particularly going forward, would be good.
Thank you, Anna. Thanks so much for those really helpful points, and we hope you have a fab summer break.